So, thanks very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Obviously, the aim was to raise as much for charity as we can, which it's a local hospice that we're doing it. We're on 98% now, so we nearly smashed our target. So, big thanks for that. We've got about 160 people who's signed up for this event. A lot of them are either very new to the gym or never been to the gym, but there's some in here that have been training a little bit. What I wanted you on for, I think it's good to see the two sort of contrasts of the industry. We sort of like promote lifestyle change, balancing, bit of good with a bit of bad. And what I've sort of found over the years, people start one of our little 6-week plans and they're sort of getting an idea of calories. And you know yourself, when you first start, everything changes dead quick, doesn't it? Your muscles start growing and you lose body fat and it's all dead exciting it's like your newbie gains. And people get them instant results. And then I've had a lot of them, right, I want to compete. And it's like trying to show them the difference really. And obviously when you're just starting, it's like new muscle, isn't it? So when you get into the realms of competing, it's hard to keep holding that muscle. So obviously anyone who doesn't know Rob is a natural professional. And I think this is a bit misleading as well, because people look at you and think, well, I'm natural, so I can get as big as Rob. But a lot of it comes down to genetics, and I know your testosterone, natural testosterone, is high anyway, isn't it? And not everyone's going to be able to be a natural professional.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think that it's you can relay that to any sport. It's like if you want to become a marathon runner, you're maybe not going to be the best build and genetic to do that. So I think that's kind of, people have to have some sort of level of understanding, and we can maybe bounce around this sort of argument of where you may be fit, best to with the sports and that kind of stuff. But I mean, anyone can put muscle on. That's, I guess, the sort of take-home message, really, and to do that. But obviously, first of all, thanks for having me as well, because it's great to come on and do these kind of things. And I must admit, when you first sent me through the topic, I was like, oh no, because if we relay this information as far as, I think, without disputing it, both diets work. So whether you do it, if it fits your macros, or you do clean bro foods, there are successful bodybuilders out there, natural and unnatural bodybuilders who follow like a flexible diet approach, and have had great results and get into fantastic contest conditions. So there's no disputing that, first of all. So I kind of want to make that clear. But if we actually do the kind of how should we say, the main differences between bodybuilding and, let's say, a better body composition or just losing weight, I think it's a nice difference of how should we say, there's a drastic difference, I feel, from my own personal experience. Yeah. Okay, and obviously I know yourself has had good success with clients and yourself doing it as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the sort of main thing. But when we actually look at, like, let's say, a contest preparation, you have to look at what the main goal of contest preparation is, first of all. Now, that is obviously to lose body fat and retain the muscle that you have. Unfortunately, bodybuilding isn't a weight loss competition. So you might have someone who drops, like myself, maybe 4 stones for a show, but actually where I'm then in contest condition is probably more like 5 stone from where I've been. So what I'm saying is that actually, like, you can lose weight and everything through doing these other measures, but it's the, I guess, the little differences in the attention to detail of how to make your life easier, maybe, or maybe what's the best approach isn't always the easiest approach. So it's kind of maybe sort of covering that. But does that all sound all right? Kind of what direction we're going?
Yeah. And from my point of view, obviously, my last show, I was trying to show that you could flexible diet, and I think because I went on the other scale of trying to make it look even easier, I was having fish and chips and stuff like that. Obviously, there's flexible dieting that people are doing shows with, and there's like fish and chips. I haven't got a clue what's in that. Where you could flexible diet and have fish and chips at home, weigh everything out, and you would know you're not using oil. And I found it interesting when obviously I'd done a few weeks and got into reasonably sort of decent shape, flexible dieting, but not really flexible. And I was on 2,600 in my head, flexible dieting. And then when I sort of panicked and thought, oh shit, I've got a show in 5 weeks. I'm going to have to get the finger out my ass. And I messaged yourself and you said, yeah, let's do it. It's probably not the best doing it in 5 weeks, but let's have a little go. Yeah. And I thought I was on 2,600 calories. Rob sort of cleaned me diet up properly, put me on 3,000, and I lost a pound a day for 14 days. So for me, that just shows it everything when you sort of contest prep, everything needs to be weighed and managed. Whereas I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know how many calories are in a scoop of this. And I was like flicking a scoop of that in, throwing a handful of them in, and I knew roundabouts that I was all right. But in reality, Rob's put me up 400 calories and I've lost 14 pounds in 14 days. So that's the difference, I think.
I think so. And I think that there's a degree of like accountability to be accurate.
Yeah.
So if, as you said, I mean, hit the nail on the head, it's like, you know, you don't quite know maybe, you know, what sauces that the fish and chip shops have used. And, you know, so you do everything from home, it's great. But I think there's sort of two ways of looking at this. So, you know, if you put everything on a spreadsheet and it's all raw material, so to speak, then great. But there's also like the time factor for a lot of people to like work out this stuff. So, you know, it's like you might be sat there and think, right, okay, I'll go on MyFitnessPal, but I can't find Krispy Kreme donuts, or I can't find it. It's like, there might be a bigger donut than normal. So when we're looking at kind of like, you know, when you are, I guess, it's much easier to flexible diet, should I say, when you have an abundance of calories.
Yeah.
When you have small amount of calories, this is where it becomes a bit of a challenge to really create the kind of body composition that we want. So because if you've got 2,600, 3,000 calories, you can have a good amount of food volume from like what we call clean sources of food. But then, you know, it's like, I sort of think of always like a good analogy is, let's say, for example, you're having your oatmeal in the morning with water, but then you also had oatmeal with full fat cream. It's like, it's not saying that you can't have that, but it's just, it's not a good use of kind of like, whether it be the way it makes you feel after you've eaten that food, the way, you know, the meal satiety and your actual overall, as you said, like, this is what I've got to play with. Let me get as kind of much food in as I can for the sort of best return. I think that's what you always have to look at.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, diverge into that a little bit more. But as I said, like, it's a time factor for a lot of people. Like, unless you're very, very well educated, especially for beginners, to doing flexible dieting, it takes a lot of work. Even if you're using something like MyFitnessPal, you know, you type in chicken breast and you're going to get 50 different scenarios of chicken breast. So, I mean, unless you say you're used to using that app and stuff all the time, and I must admit myself, I've like struggled to use it in the past because I've always just done spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Then it's like trying to find this or find that. And, you know, it might take me 10 or 15 minutes to find a food that actually what I'm eating and the amount. And therefore, then, you know, whereas I'm just on a spreadsheet, it's there in black and white, and I'm happy days. So there's the kind of maybe the two things for that for beginners. But
I think with MyFitnessPal, they always used to say if you get a green tick, it's been authenticated as
right.
But now it's not. There's green ticks everywhere, and honestly, it's the worst. It's one of the worst things I've ever like. I don't know whether it's just got too big. So they've just been approving everything. Yeah. But honestly, the accuracy in MyFitnessPal now is shocking.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, it's there's obviously sort of a number of things maybe to consider. You know, as I said, and I guess when we go back to the main point that, you know, we're trying to lose fat and retain muscle. So yes, as I said, when you've got abundance of calories, you can kind of hit their macros no problem. But the problems that you face, let's say towards the end of a diet, I mean, let me take I guess maybe average client that I have, so I deal with a lot of like men and women bodybuilding clients. Towards the end of a diet, you may be ending up on anywhere from maybe 1,500 to 2,000 calories, some more, depending on the body weight and everything like that. So if you've only got 1,500 calories to choose from, it's very difficult. If you said, like, I think you've said it yourself in the past, if you put a pizza in, it gives you really nothing left to really choose from to ideally, as I said, retain muscle. So the idea is that yes, you will drop weight if you can stick to that, that calorie count. But as I said, our end goal is to create a good, hard, full, separated, functioning physique, where you've got energy to go and train and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be smarter with the food choices. And I think that what happens is that when you do get people at, let's say, advanced levels of flexible dieting who bodybuild, towards the end of a diet, they are eating more what we call like bro food. So you are eating more chicken and rice and broccoli and everything like that. So I think that's maybe where the misconception is. I think the biggest thing to look at is there's no real bad foods. It's just to say, at the end of the day, your goal is to, create the best physique possible and the best look as possible. There's avenues where you can look at where maybe people are over dieted for shows, people not lost enough body fat to where they need to get to. And that can be, simple, just how your diet's set up. Everyone will do the training side, so to speak. So I'm not sure what direction you want to go through. Do you want me just to kind of maybe like go through some like subjects or things that I've thought about, like with regards to maybe one way over the other, or is there anything you want to ask?
I think if we can just sort of start with like how long would you recommend that somebody trained before they even like thought about doing a show? Because obviously when you go into a show, even if you do a first timers competition, it's somebody's first time on stage. And when I done my first timers, John Bridge, have you heard of John Bridge? He's now like a professional, NABBA professional, and he was going to do the first timers, but he trained for 20 years, so he decided to jump in the novices. He's still a novice, but it was massive, shredded. So for me, like I see a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'm just going to jump in one, see how I can do, see what I look like." What's the sort of risk versus reward of jumping in just to have a look at how you are against everybody else, to knocking your confidence totally and not wanting to do it?
So I think the biggest thing you have to consider, especially from like taking on clients and doing shows, is your level of expectation.
Yeah.
So for a start, if someone's goal is, let's say you've had some success maybe with flexible diet, and then you then decide that my next thing is I'd quite like to do a show because I look pretty good and I'm going to jump on stage, then that's great. But I guess that if your kind of mindset is like, I'm going to do the show and I just want to see how I look, get some stage photos, experience it all, fantastic.
Yeah.
If your expectation is to go in and win that show, then that's maybe where it's kind of like you maybe need someone with a bit more of an educated eye to tell you, maybe you're not quite ready for this, or just to manage your expectations on what you should be doing. Because that's probably the biggest thing I do with clients with, I want to do a show. Yep, great. The honest feedback I'll give that person is where I realistically think that their physique could go. And I'm always dead honest with that. And sometimes, it's not what people want to hear.
Yeah.
We've got honesty is the best policy. But as I said, I think it sets you up for down the line of, okay, like, look, okay, if we can reach British finals level, that's a massive win for you.
Yeah.
Other clients I take on is like, I'll be disappointed if you don't go and win a pro card this year. That's kind of, maybe the different levels of it, really. So as I said, I think it really depends on what that person's trying to achieve out of that doing the show for a start. I've actually answered this on a podcast recently, so I will go into it just a little bit. But I think a lot of new people getting into the sport, I'm always in encouragement of doing that. As I said, it does come back around to what you're wanting to get out of that, and maybe not sort of go in with the expectation that you're going to beat someone who's been training for 20 years and done that because they've just had more experience and maybe just a better physique overall because they've had the time. So very much I think what people have to understand is that bodybuilding is very much an old person's game. And what I mean by that is if you take your best in the world of Mr. Olympias, even at a natural level, they tend to be older guys. And when we talk about older, we're talking, to around mid-30s to 40s, not 20. So that's because it's the time you've had in the gym, the time you've had of obviously building that muscle, and obviously just the level of density your body actually creates to that muscle. With it's like a big oak tree, you know, it's had 200 years to grow and to mature. It's not just like, you know, it's freshly sprouted out of the ground. It's going to be a much stronger tree, and that's kind of the same with bodybuilding, really. So. So I think people need to understand that, is that, you know, maybe when you're sprinting, you know, you can be 20 and beat guys in the 30s. But with bodybuilding, it's very much the way around. So kind of expecting that.
And I think a lot of people don't appreciate, like, it's one of the only sports where even if you've got the talent, you can't beat somebody who's got the talent who's been doing it for 10 years. You can't physically catch them up.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I'm 43 now, and last time I'd done the novices, and now I'm thinking I should probably do the over 40s. But like you said, they're all absolute monsters, and they've been doing it for like 20 years and competing for 20 years, so the muscles hardened. It's like granite. So it's always the better sort of classes. And me deciding I want to do a little bit of that now, I'm never going to catch them guys. So I have to have them sort of expectations of they've been conditioned for that many years. So like with the novice or first timers, I think even if you haven't got as much muscle, if you really try, you can get tighter and leaner. And I've seen a lot of smaller novices beat the bigger guys because they're tighter. You're not going to get that with the over 40s, are you? Because the season did it, the normal.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it does. It's a good point to bring up for sure. So I say, I'm not sure what sort of direction you want to take it in, but I mean, there's maybe just say like a few differences that I've kind of like thought about, and I've had to pretty hard, to be honest, because as I said, it really, I think that the biggest advantage is that we're relaying it to beginners, and that's the biggest difference, really. So I think one thing is, like, I know from personal experience, the kind of thing of like, one, meal satiety, but two, like the mental mindset with food. So I'm one of these people. If someone like, well, the probably best example I had is that we were walking around Body Power, and one of the guys on stand asked, I was on prep at the time, and said, oh, there's some free samples of some chocolate protein bars. And I was like, right, yeah, cool. I was like, but so it's all right. I said, I'm all right, thanks. He's like, don't worry, bro, it won't ruin your macros. I said, it's got nothing to do with ruining my macros. I said, I know that one piece of chocolate's not going to do me any harm or change my physique in any way. But the fact is, if I have one, I want 10.
Yeah.
So for me, it didn't do me any good to then have something that wasn't on my plan, because I just want more of it.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe where you can kind of get into like the unhealthy, how should we say, habits with food.
Yeah.
Because what can happen is someone can go, right, I've got 2,000 calories to spare this day. I'm going to have, chicken salad, and then, a Domino's or Five Guys and stuff in the evening. It isn't the best way to create what we're trying to achieve as far as to hold on to muscle and to obviously create, as healthy physique as possible. So I guess that's the kind of sort of like the mindset, I say, of wanting more. Now, there are people out there who are very, very disciplined while doing that, and having that break in, I can have a little bit of dark chocolate before I go to bed. I'm cool with that. Some other people, it just sets them off to like, I just want this. I don't want to eat my chicken and rice afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to be quite, clever, educated, and also, to have some self-discipline with it, I think, really.
Yeah. And I think having a coach is probably essential. I've not really known anyone who's done a bodybuilding competition without a coach. And you look at even the Olympians, the top level guys have all got coaches. And obviously I recruited your services again after lockdown, because I'd literally put over a stone on, just no direction, no accountability. And then now when I'm checking in with you, it does make you think, it does make you, and obviously I know what I'm doing, but I'm a lazy fuck. And like, if you're lazy and you're greedy added into the mix like I am, it's hard to stay accountable if you haven't got somebody keeping an eye on you.
We start to maybe justify things, don't you?
Yeah.
like it might have been like the whole like, okay, well, I've done this many steps, or it might be like I'm going to have a meal off plan every night, but then that, as I said, when we look at like, okay, send me some pictures of the food, that meal's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
Oh,
like,
no, massive, yeah, massive.
like I've suddenly gone 40 grams over my fat content for the day because I wanted a ribeye steak instead of fillet. It's things like that, so it's kind of, as I said, it can come back to maybe like the unhealthy habits that we maybe get into because of it. But we are talking about the kind of extremists with regards to the way maybe people try to almost cheat the system. Because as I said, you've got people who can go, no, like just having this bit of flexibility for me, absolutely 100% is like, the best thing about this diet because I can adhere to it. And that's what we always say is that, a successful diet is one you can follow properly. So there's that aspect, and then I guess you can say flip-sided to say, right, well, this makes me want more, so therefore I'm kind of trying to cheat the system to get a donut at the end of the day. So that's kind of maybe the thing. So moving on with that as well, and it sort of ties in, but we did slightly bring it up, but like how satisfied you are after eating that meal.
Yeah.
I know for sure that I can use the example just from my own experience. Let's say, for example, before I go to the gym, I'm rushed for time and I decide to have a bagel with some peanut butter on. Now, a lot of time when I've had that over, let's say, the same kind of calories from, let's say, oatmeal and protein powder, if you can kind of use the same, calorie for calorie, if you like. I always find that after having something like a bagel, I'm dead hungry afterwards. Like I just want to eat more.
Yeah.
And I've also then maybe find it actually affects my then session because I'm still hungry when it goes to training. So I think that people have to consider their food choices to kind of what's said, especially when we get to the lower end of the calories. When you've only got 1,800 to play with every day, that you want to feel full. You don't want to be like looking in the cupboards and find some calorie-free food that you want to eat. So that's one, I guess, the sort of main maybe issues maybe people will find with choosing different types of foods. So I'm not sure if you've had experience with that yourself, but maybe when you've gone to train, maybe you just said that might be someone wants to eat Cocoa Pops after the workout. It's fine, carbs, carb, but then you have that against them like a potato. I know, like I said, I just feel better for doing that. So I guess you have to, as I said, sort of weigh that option up yourself.
Yeah, and obviously you see a lot of these guys now doing shows on Instagram and they're smashing the cereal. Obviously, you don't even do that in like peak week because, and to be honest, it's like you said there, it's not going to make you feel full. And I can understand smashing a lot of cereal if you're in a mass gaining. And I was doing about 5,000, trying to get 5,000 calories worth of like clean calories in. And that is a struggle. So to have some cereal that's easier to get in and see the advantage of that. But in a prep, like if you tell me to eat Pop-Tarts or cereal, I would just take your hand off because it's nice, it's tasty. But I think it's just because people want it. I don't think there's a benefit to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I always use the example that like I have a lot of people who use glucose and whey post-workout because of all the studies that have been done on, glucose being one of the best absorbent carbohydrates after your workout. People will still try to convince me Cocoa Pops are better. Now, it does work. It's just for me, for the goal of bodybuilding is like, what can I use to get the absolute best return for my body? We're talking all the 1%ers, especially as natural guys. You want to try and exhaust all the avenues that you can, to be, as best as you can be. And, as I said, if it means that I'm eating, as I said, a potato instead of a Pop-Tart, then great. I'll do what's kind of going to give you the best return. So I said, I think people need to consider that. And, going in from that point, I think that one thing that's massively overlooked with flexible dieting is like the fiber content. When you tend to choose more kind of, how should we say, things like cereal, and maybe cereal is not the best example, but some other foods which are especially lower in fiber or lower or higher on the GI scale, that, that you often have to think about not so much about what goes in your body, but also what's then coming out.
Yeah.
And if you've got a really lack of fiber in the diet, it causes you a lot of problems. So as I said, like maybe you're supplementing with that fiber on top, or if I said it's just the food you're choosing. I've always felt from a bodybuilding standpoint and an overall health standpoint, like I feel good eating, chicken and vegetables and rice and the almost cleaner foods because I like the way it feels and the way I digest that food. It's like if I have a pizza, it's all very well and good, but I do suffer for it the next day.
Yeah.
So, like I said, for me, I want something that's going to be, it's not always just looking about that calorie going in. As I said, it's how you're, and bodybuilders are massively guilty for this, not looking at how it's actually being processed and your body is utilizing that for your training sessions. So
yeah.
I think that's a big thing to consider.
And I think like these guys, they're just getting into the whole gym, the nutrition and stuff like that. If you've come from a place where you're just eating crap all the time, you don't really realize the effect food has on your body. You just think you're feeling a bit shitty that day or a bit crap that day. When you clean your diet right out, you have that Chinese or that pizza, you are on the toilet for a long time, you're struggling to sleep. And it's not until you clean everything up that much that you notice the effects of food, have you? If you're eating crap all the time, you're just up and down, you feel a bit crap, you're depressed one day, low energy one day, and you just put it down just to the way you feel. Yep. But that food has a massive impact on it, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yeah. And as I said, there's little things like, I always advocate, especially when we're, most clients I've got at the moment who are doing the, Open British Finals at the end of the year, if the show's run. They're 20 weeks out, and a lot of them were planning to do qualifiers early in the year. So a lot of them are in a really good position already, quite lean, maybe only sort of 5 to 10 pounds over contest weight. So when I'm giving them their refeeds or high days at the weekend, I'm always looking to get a good return for bodybuilding. So that might be something like oven fries and steak, as opposed to maybe going out for a McDonald's. So it's kind of it can be flexible to a certain point, because I'm definitely not maybe as bro as I used to be. I always used to be, chicken and brown rice.
Yeah.
But I think that it does kind of maybe set you up some sort of good fundamentals for sure. So I think that's, sort of people not to get the wrong impression, but, same again, these guys, they digest that food well. So they then feel good. They want to then go train legs next day. And it's also like a mental battle for some people if they were to have that Chinese. It's right, well, I don't really feel like training legs. I just want to be on the toilet the whole day. So it's definitely things you need to maybe sort of consider for that. So as I said, that's kind of maybe individual preferences, and obviously everyone's digestion is different, but definitely something you can be smart with, if you're having some higher foods and everything, to kind of get you a good return for what I always call money in the bank for bodybuilding. It's if I go out for a meal, I'm just kind of in tune to basically want to pick a carb, a protein source, and some healthy fats, as opposed to just rubbish, because it just doesn't really feel like getting anything out of it. So there's that. I think something else I wanted to bring up as well is it's very maybe how I should say anecdotal evidence. But one thing I've noticed for myself from prepping in the past with shows and clients is sometimes differences between using a whole food source like a fresh basmati rice and then an Uncle Ben's packet rice. I've always used to have this problem with saying that people don't use Uncle Ben's packet rice. Now we can look at calories a calorie, and a pack of maybe of Uncle Ben's rice has got 60 carbs in or so, which is about the equivalent of about 100 grams of sort of raw basmati rice. But always when I've consumed both of those, separately obviously, I've always feel better eating a normal basmati rice. Now, there may be a few reasons why that is. I always feel fuller after eating a packet of rice, even though it's the same carb content. I always feel a bit bloated and everything afterwards. Now, when I've had clients who've been actually prepping and using that as their main rice source, without me knowing really, just got lazy, decided I'm just going to buy a packet of rice. Every single one of them, when they've come out and taken that out of their diet, has actually dropped weight. Now, whether that's just because it's okay, it's happened to 5 people, could be a coincidence, so I haven't got any evidence to science to back it up. But if you look at maybe the shelf life of something like that, how long Uncle Ben's packet rice can sit on the shelf in Tesco's compared to if you cooked rice and put it in the fridge, it's a mile apart. So I think that these things have to be considered, that sometimes your whole food sources are just going to be better, and you have to make these, how should we say, educated kind of conclusions at the end of it. The fact that, okay, well, I feel better when I eat normal whole food sources of rice compared to that. And as I said, it's only because I've had them to myself and others where they've all dropped weight as soon as they've taken out the diet and gone, just Uncle Ben's rice. Now, as I said, it's both 60 grams of carbs, but for whatever reason, as you said yourself, you've increased your calories and dropped weight.
Yeah, and I always use Uncle Ben's packet rice just because I'm lazy. It's easy, you can scan it, and it's less hassle. But I've never really had rice that you cook yourself. Again, I'm lazy, and so I've never seen the difference. But now you talk about it, like rice is really notorious for holding bacteria and food poisoning and E. coli and stuff. And they're going to have to be putting something in there to prevent that. And it's like with bread, you can have bread and same carbohydrate source as a potato, but with the additives and preservatives in it bloats you, doesn't it? So now you've said it, it makes sense, but I've never even considered that.
If you look at the back of a wholemeal basmati rice, raw rice packet, the ingredients, basmati rice, on the back of Uncle Ben's, it's like 50 million preservatives and everything on there to keep that obviously in check. I said it works. Rice is rice, but as I said, if you're then maybe high sodium foods, like let's say a Five Guys or whatever, and you tend to have that kind of puffiness that you feel the next day afterwards. Sometimes I find that could be from having just a lot of packeted rice.
Yeah.
And it's okay, well, that's causing an issue of actually giving me a bit of what we call in bodybuilding terms, a bit of a film under your skin.
Yeah.
You kind of look a bit bloated and a bit puffy and a bit of water retention. And so that's not always just down to how much water you've drunk. Some foods can make you feel like that. It's I always get the puffy Domino's face the next day. I've never had a Domino's. I love it. Love a Domino's. Probably one of my favourite takeaways to have. But yeah, I do. I suffer for it. And I said I always look dead puffy in the face the day after. So it's kind of you have to, as I said, make these kind of observations and just say go and buy a rice cooker. Don't be lazy, because I said the easiest option isn't always the best option.
Yeah, and I think it's not until you get into the realms of the sort of the competition and that you would even notice that. Anyone just getting into stuff and eating microwave pouches of rice probably wouldn't notice. And then it's trade-off, isn't it? It's you can grab a packet of microwave rice, you can cook it for two minutes, and if it's going to make it look a little bit puffier, does it matter if you can do that sustainably all your life? Or you don't do that and you can't be asked cooking any rice, so you're going to have some chips from the chip shop. So I think that's a big difference between the contest prep, the bodybuilding.
Definitely, because I say, when we're looking at, say, just weight loss alone, no doubt, you lower your calories and you keep a good amount of expenditure, then 100% you will still continue to drop weight. But I think of what maybe some people don't realize, especially beginners, and this is more evident, I guess, right towards the end of your contest prep. When I'm carbing up for a show and depleting for a show, we're talking the space of 7 days. Towards that end of the show, so we're talking last 3 or 4 days, my body changes how it looks by the hour.
Yeah.
And people can go, how's that possible? But it really, really does, because your body is obviously that kind of sensitive to food at that point, because what you're effectively doing is controlled starving almost.
Yeah.
When you're walking, when you're down to say proper contest condition of maybe below 5% body fat, and you're shredded top to toe. So if I go and have a burger that night, I think it will massively change how you look. Yeah. Whereas maybe when you're just losing weight, you're not going to notice the differences so much. So I think that's sort of maybe sort of people to consider really.
What sort of advice would you give to somebody that's looking at all these Instagram and looking at the competitions, think, I really want to give that a go? How long? I guess it's all pretty individual on genetics and how quick they build muscle. But somebody, say it was I'm not going to say a guy because I said wife before and I got hell. So a man or a woman who's half decent genetics, they're natural, how long should they sort of really train to get that foundation?
Well, training for, say, the foundation side, as I said, I mean, it's a really sort of hard question to answer because everyone is different. I think that what it is important though, especially when we talk about like looking at people on Instagram and that kind of stuff, you have to learn your own body.
Yeah.
Because like I've got clients, little Chris, I call him, he walks around, I'm not joking, if anyone looks at his pictures, below 5% all year round. And I mean below 5%, not like Instagram 5%, where someone's got a bit of abs, but they've still got, big chunky legs and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like peeled to the bone. Now, I can't get him to eat enough clean food sources. I can't get him to eat enough junk on top to keep his calories up. And he stays probably about 2 to 3 kilos over his contest weight the whole year. And we're talking he's like 60 kilos. So he's not a heavy guy.
Yeah.
But if I was to eat that diet, 100%, I'd be fat as a house.
Yeah.
So, he has to eat some more like Pop-Tarts and muffins and stuff like pre and post workouts because I said he can't get enough calories in to basically sustain that weight. Now, as I said, so if you try and take that maybe list of advice, or you look at maybe what Phil Heath's doing, or maybe what, Lee Butterworth's doing, it's not always going to be the best thing for you. So that's where you have to kind of maybe take the time to learn your own body.
Yeah.
With regards to your food, with regards to maybe the calories that you need. As I said, and everyone's maybe, I always laugh, I always say I've got the fat gene because I put on weight so quickly, especially after shows. And to actually maintain where I am, I have to be in a deficit almost, which is stupid. But that's just, that's just the way my body makeup is. And so I think you have to find that. And as far as say like laying a level of foundation, I think a lot of that could be questioned on maybe like what you've done in your childhood.
Yeah.
I was always a sporty kid. So like, always did active sports, never sat still. If you are a, computer programmer and you've done that from, the age of 14, then you decide when you're 25, you want to be a bodybuilder, you're going to have a much harder time because you just haven't had that level of stress and tension on the muscles for that 10-year period beforehand.
Yeah.
I think that said, everyone is different, but, as I said, it's kind of maybe a hard question to answer because there's no wrong or right answer because same again, comes back around to your level of expectation of what you want from the show. I've had clients who approach me, maybe have only been training a year and decide to want to do a show because they just love bodybuilding. They want to do a show. Great. Yeah. But as I said, they're maybe not the same guys who come away with the British title. So,
yeah. How long was it before you'd done a show training?
Well, actually, spoke about this yesterday, funny enough. I joined gym when I was 14. I was playing like semi-professional football at pro clubs as a kid and doing athletics as well and like a little bit of weight training with those sessions as well. I seriously started weight training properly about 16.
Yeah.
So I was 14. I didn't do my first show till I was 22.
Yeah.
So actually, without even knowing about it, although I just felt like I was getting started, I already had like maybe 5 or 6 years of training before I even decided to do a show. But I think the issue is that people definitely say it's a lot more fashionable to be in shape now through the use of social media and things like that. Everyone wants abs and, wants to look on a holiday. Whereas kind of people could maybe just kind of get away with it in the past or not be so fussed about it. It wasn't so much in society or culture that it was really like much of an issue. So I think that, as I said, it was, you definitely have to have time under your belt of training if you don't want to look out of place.
Yeah,
sure is a word of advice. But obviously I'd always want to encourage people to go and do the sport and to try it out. But as I said, it might be a first timers at a very, very local show, as opposed to then jumping in the UK BFF or BNBF, like, a big qualifier of the year and expecting to just be lost in the numbers. So you have to kind of start where you feel good, really.
Yeah. So it just comes down to expectations, really, on what they want.
Yeah.
But sometimes they won't tell you the expectations. They'll tell you they're just going in to see how they do, but they're wanting to win the pro card after they've been training about 3 months.
I think that's where it's good to be then like surrounded by like friends and family, one who will support you, but two will give you some honest feedback. Because, if someone comes to you in the gym and is like, Lee, like I've done this photo shoot, like, do you think I could win the British finals? Like, it's important to say like, you have to look at, the guys you're competing against instead. And you have to look at like the reality of it, not just because maybe it's what people want to hear. And I think that's where having a good coach who will realistically set your goals for you. It's like if someone says to you, Lee, okay, I want to lose 10 stone. It's like, okay, I'm not saying that's not possible, but let's look at losing 1 first.
Yeah.
Because then you can.
And I guess that comes down to who they approach. Like I've said to a lot of people, it's like fantastic to have a goal and want to do it, but let's be realistic. Give yourself, this is what you need to do. Look at yourself, see where your weak points are, work on them, and sort of be optimistic about it, but realistic at the same time with a time frame. But not a lot. There's a lot of coaches who just take money off them and say, "Yeah, let's do it." So that's, I think, finding the right coach in there. And that's why I like you, to be honest, because you're honest. If I'm being a dickhead, you tell me I'm being a dickhead, and we sort of get it sorted. Like last weekend when I sent you my steps, and as soon as I sent you them, I looked at them. I was like, it's told me to do 10,000, and like this weekend I've done like 2,000 Saturday, Sunday, right? And I put my shoes on and I went out and done it because I knew you'd just be like, what's the point? Like, you're wasting your money, sort of giving me money to tell you stuff and you're not even doing it. So I think to get a good coach is probably crucial if you're going to be doing it.
Definitely. I mean, it comes around to mindset, but it's kind of like something that always stuck with me. It was that like lazy gets you last. And I think that you have to kind of, as I said, you have to kind of meet someone halfway. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got clients to just be like, look, like I just need a rest day.
Yeah.
Smashing myself. I've been doing everything and I've only done 3,000 steps today. I'm like, it's no biggie. But if that's your, I want to lose weight and I want to retain muscle and, you're doing 2,000 steps a day because it's just like I've literally just sat and played with the kids all day to a certain point. It's like, right, but then you're going to have to make some sacrifices or some things just to basically, park forever away at Tesco's kind of thing, little small things. You don't have to turn your life upside down to be more active. And that's the take home really. And the things that I'll always take on board with prep is like, okay, there's kind of like what's maybe bad, what's maybe good, and what's kind of optimal. And you have to find that balance really, because I think if you're what we always call optimal wankers, we call them, because it's like, how amazing can I do everything? That's not maintainable. That's not, for a lot of people what's you can fit into a normal lifestyle. And I think that's really important to get that balance. And something that I think I've always done well is like, yes, you can be a hardcore bodybuilder, but if I want to go to the cinema and watch a film with my missus, I can. I haven't got to be home for 3 hours to eat my chicken and rice and go to bed at 10 o'clock. You have to find these, the compromises, I said, but the compromises aren't kind of said like just taking the easy way out all the time. There has to be a line drawn. I think that's where a coach can help you for sure to say, right, okay, well, this is fine here, but it's not so fine here. So yes, get out and do a walk, and then we're quit. That's happy.
And I think it's time scales as well, isn't it? It's like I always tell people when you're getting into nutrition, getting into health, it's trying to find something that works good for you. If you don't like the gym, don't do the gym. Go running, go cycling, something you can do long term to keep healthy, to keep the weight off. And in that case, it's like just be 60, 70% every single week for the rest of your life, and you're going to be in good shape. If you want to do a show, give yourself 16 weeks or something, so you can have them bad weeks that some stuff comes up in your life and you've got that space. Don't give yourself 5 weeks like we did, because everything has to be balls to the wall. And I think understanding your own circumstances in life to get a time scale. And I think, again, that guy who walks around 5%, he probably only needs like a week or two of tweaking stuff and he's ready. Someone who's like 6 stone overweight, they can probably still do a show, but they're going to maybe have 20 weeks of doing it.
I can always think of a good way to kind of look at it, and obviously this comes from maybe getting an educated eye, but I always look at £1 a week. Now, bearing in mind, I sometimes am like 35, 40 pounds over contest weight.
Yeah.
So it takes me 35 weeks to diet for a proper show.
Yeah.
But we always say that, dieting wants to be like landing a plane. It shouldn't be like, a kamikaze nosedive into it. You want it to be in control as slow as possible, where you're only maybe losing, a quarter of a pound or a pound, and some weeks I'll lose 2, which is a bonus. But if I then suddenly have 2 or 3 weeks where I'm not losing, it's not the end of the world. But on the same thing, like I'm dieting on super high food at that time. I'm still maybe having a meal off at a weekend. It's not an aggressive, like 5-week diet over 35 weeks. It's all context really.
Yeah.
So I think that's where maybe people need to consider the amount of time they need to spend for a show, because the slower and the better things you can do it, then for sure the better result you'll get. But so I'm not just, by the way, telling everyone they need to diet for 35 weeks for a show. It's just,
and to be fair, for a lot of people, like you obviously know your body, you know what sort of shape you're going to get in, you've done it before. So for you, losing a pound a week for 35 weeks, you can sustain it. For most people, like normal people just getting into the gym, if they're losing a pound a week, they're depressed, and the like, you know what I mean? That's a difference.
Yeah.
Because of the quick results they all see on Herbalife shakes and Juice Plus and stuff. Everybody wants to lose a stone in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Whereas, I guess a big difference in contest prep and just losing weight is retaining the muscle as well. So you're dropping a pound of fat, but you've got all this muscle. In the end, you're going to look in a better position. But I think the sad state of life now and the way things are, everybody just wants them quick fixes, don't they?
And as I said, it's like, with bodybuilding, unfortunately, it's kind of like people are more and more at the moment, like wanting to reward mediocre people. And it's like, we've had in the past where I judged for the BNBF, and had a guy's wife come up to us and said, I don't understand why my husband hasn't won. He's lost 4 stone for his show.
Yeah.
Like he's done amazing. I was like, unfortunately, this isn't Weight Watchers. He doesn't get a gold star. Because there's 3 other people, he still needs to lose another 2 to be really probably ready for the show. And it's that harsh reality of it. But I mean, that's the kind of like territories you're getting into with it. And as I said, it's as I said, the idea of saying that people be disappointed losing a pound a week, it's very true. However, as I said, it comes back around to the main goal. It's to say retain muscle, lose body fat, but not just lose weight. Because I said, I can pull all your carbs out of your diet tomorrow and call myself a diet guru because you've lost 3 pounds on the scale, but we've only lost glycogen. You've not lost body fat.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of the main maybe differences of maybe what people should maybe understand getting into it. It's you might actually not lose any weight on the scale for 5 weeks, but you visually look better.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how we can explain that in science terminology, because there's been a few people who maybe said things where some people call it, I think Phil Learney called it metabolic shifting. So you can actually go, right, well, I'm visually leaner and I've lost an inch, but I'm the same flipping weight on the scales. So that's why maybe like, with bodybuilding, it's all about the visual check-in pictures as opposed to just, what the scale is saying. And that's why we send those every week, because it can, you say maybe put on a pound, but you look better. It's like, well, it doesn't matter, I'm happy,
And I think, like, one of our biggest problems as a sort of gym that sort of caters for a lot of beginners, getting them into training, when you first start the gym, you change dead quick because everything's a shock to your body. Most people are starting the gym in bad shape, so they're starting a diet, so the fat's going away, they're building the muscle, they see changes, the friends and family are commenting on them. Once you get past that sort of like 6 to 12 months phase of everything changing quick, it becomes a really slow process, especially as a natural. If you're putting like half a pound a month on of muscle, you're doing a great job. No one sees that, do they?
No.
Until a year down the line. And I think as people, we need that instant gratification of people a lot, which it's just the way we are. And if people aren't commenting how big your biceps look every single week, a lot of them just stop coming. And I think that's where the struggle is, isn't it? It's like once all that new begins is finished and you've seen that results in 12 months of how quick it all happens, then when everything slows down, people just knock it on the head.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've actually I've commented that I'm actually heavier as a junior than I am what I compete at now. We're talking 15 years ago. Yeah. So, because, I mean, I wasn't quite, I still won a British title, so I was in good enough condition, like, still like abs, and, pretty much, relatively low body fat, but maybe not like glutes all the way through and things like that. But we're talking, and then like 15 years down the line, I'm about 7 pounds lighter. Now, if you compare the two physiques side by side, you look like you're putting 20 pound of muscle.
Yeah.
As I say, I've been probably the same weight for about the last 5 years on stage, but it's always a visual, bigger, picture. So as I said, it's like you're just refining everything. So to put on like a pound of muscle, if I stepped on stage a pound heavier in, you know, better condition, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah.
Especially if you go on, you know, I'm 33 now. But I said, you know, I've got maybe some of my best years left of bodybuilding, but I don't expect to suddenly be 5 pounds heavy at the end of, you know, next year. It just won't happen. So
especially natural as well. Obviously, people start enhancing stuff, and it becomes a lot easier. But I guess someone in your sort of game, when you're at your top level of being a natural professional, people take the thing of going on to being assisted. You're right at the very bottom of the pile of everybody else, and then you can't cheat time again, and you're going against people who's had steroids since they were like probably 18. Yeah. So I think
it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? Because I mean, I think that, you know, one thing I maybe have realised is that people who maybe do go down the assisted route, it just allows you or facilitates you to get to that next level.
Yeah.
I think like, you know, if someone was to take a bunch of steroids and then not train, not go to the gym, they wouldn't look any different.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I said, I think that maybe that's the biggest things I've learned over the years with working with clients who, you know, do obviously on an assisted side. They will just be able to get results a bit faster and a bit longer. But as I said, it's all relative. It's all relative at the end of the day. And so.
Perfect. I'll just see, has anybody got any questions that would like to fire at Rob while we've got his experience here? Probably not. They're all probably all wanting to do bodybuilding shows now.
That's what I
heard. No questions as yet.
What about yourself? Will you be doing wanting to do a bodybuilding show ever again? Toyed with it?
I enjoyed the crack, but it's like I looked all right, but because I just done it like 5 weeks, then I think it was 7 weeks to the British. 7 weeks, I could sort of handle a diet. For me to get in like really good shape, I have to ask myself, have I got the right mindset for it? Could I take it that far? Like, I'm naturally lazy. I naturally like eating crap. So I just don't know whether I would like to do it just to see if I could. But obviously, I've severed my tendon in my leg. So you've seen the pictures. Like, I look like a walking wounded at the minute. Like, my leg's all gimpy. With my shoulder injury, I'm all lopsided. So, to be fair, I didn't look that lopsided on stage when I'd done it. I think as I lose the body fat, it makes me look a bit more even, to be honest. But
yeah, I've noticed the same. I've got like a bit of a funny shoulder. It's always up like this when I look at myself and like checking pictures. As I get leaner and leaner, it disappears somehow.
Yeah, well, I found when I looked on stage, I didn't look as lopsided. Like when I told Marty I was going to do his show, which is the local one, because I'll be taking a few people through me to watch. And I said about my lopsided shoulder, he was like, Lee, if you compete, I'll lopside the stage so you look straight. But once I got there, like when I was doing them like progress shots for you, the leaner I got, the less you could tell really. So it must just be me saggy fat that hangs off me and pulls me down. Really.
I think, you can maybe hide things with posing corrections as well, like hide a little bit of weaknesses and stuff with the body. But I think what you get back round to saying is that it's all, you have to kind of make that sort of decision about, as I said, how important bodybuilding is for you compared to maybe whether it be family, business. All these things are going to definitely take a massive hit.
Yeah.
So if it's kind of like I want to do it for the crack, then great. But as I said, it's like it's a big commitment to put into, and people will become very, very food focused. More narky around your kids, all this kind of stuff. So
it's a balance, isn't it? And when I done them when I was 21, I'd done them for the wrong reasons. I'd done them because other people expected me to do them because I was so big, and I hated every single minute of it, and I was narky, I was tired, I hated everybody. Where this time, I know I didn't really give myself much time, but I loved the process. I enjoyed it. I had a laugh on stage. Last when I was 21 and I'd done it, I can't even remember going on stage. I was that nervous and I was that like depleted. I'm enjoying what we're doing now. A little bit more flexible. It's keeping me accountable. I think I'm down like over a stone now. My muscles coming back. So I'm just going to keep going with this after lockdown. See what because nobody else will be training now, so I might have like a bit of an advantage. So when they put the competitions back on, everybody's like smaller. So I want to come out of lockdown looking lean, looking good, ready to put it back on. But yeah, I would like to do it one more time to see how lean I could get, but I just don't know whether I'm capable of it. It takes a special type of person.
It does, yeah. So to keep it on subject then, what was the biggest differences you found between like flexible dieting and like bro dieting, if you like, if you want to call it that, and like kind of what you maybe have like taken on for others to kind of, if you like.
Yeah, so I found it easier to prep for what we done because I was just eating the same thing. And I could just knock loads up, put it in. There was less thinking about it. Obviously, I wasn't having to use MyFitnessPal or any sort of tracking apps because you just worked everything out in a spreadsheet. I found that if I do flexible dieting, because I've done it for so long, I just make too many assumptions. And them assumptions over 4 or 5 meals a day all add up and probably were putting me in a very small calorie deficit, if anything. Whereas when you go on a bit stricter, you weigh everything out, it's a lot more accurate. And that, I think that was a big difference for me. And sometimes I like to just go quite strict and you can see the results a bit quicker.
Yeah.
And
you're a fast responder as well, and that helped definitely to your mindset, didn't it? Like you was when we were changing the food, it was like, wow, look at that, I feel like leaner day by day, and that's for everyone. But you know, that's a really rewarding side from it.
Yeah, and I'll send you my shots, photos today or tomorrow, and I haven't even weighed myself this week, but visually it looks like I've started doing the training program, whereas like. I was just fannying about previous to that. I was just, and 25 reps on the pendulum squat isn't nicer. But it's given me a focus again. I've got a training plan. I'm trying to increase my weights on it. And honest, like when I look at the volume I'm doing on the training plan now to what I was doing when I was fannying about myself, there was no volume in it. I was just fannying about, giving up when I couldn't be asked. And I think with me, if I haven't got something in front of me, a training plan, I'll mess about on my phone, I'll check my emails, and I'm always thinking about business, life, and there's too much going on in my head, and I forget about training while I'm actually training. So for me, a training plan just focuses me. So when you see the changes this week from last week, it's just the extra muscle. Like, obviously, I've got muscle that's been there for 27 years. It was dug under a load of fat and adding that resistance. And I think that's the exciting bit. I've been telling everybody in our groups and that, get as lean as you can over lockdown. As soon as you add that weight training element back in, everybody's just going to be changing on a daily basis. And that's what I found. I've added the real training back in and everything's just exploding. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going. But that's the real difference for me. And I guess it's deciding what you want. And I think if you want to just get in half decent shape, be healthy, flexible dieting's good. Sometimes if you've got a holiday coming up, maybe get that a little bit stricter. And when you've been on holiday, maybe go a bit stricter, get the fat off that you've sucked all the margaritas and whatever, then go back to flexible dieting and keep it off. So
maybe it said like it's maybe slightly nicer to do in a gaining phase.
Yeah.
Allow more accountability and more, how should we say, flexibility to kind of eat some of the foods that you want. But, you know, the other, maybe, as you said, like the 90-10 rule or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You know, that's a nice way to do it. But
I think they both have the place, don't they? And I guess it's what your goals are at that time, really. But no, it's been really good insight.
Cool.
So, Aga loved the content. Nicola's going for a rice maker. I think you've put every fucker off having
see you later,
packet rice. I'm going to get a rice maker myself now as well. Maybe that's why I'm so fat. I've just been eating like packets of rice, and that's hampered me. George, very interesting content. Beth, are you doing any more competitions yourself? Or are you just prepping now?
No, yeah, prepping for shows this year if they go ahead. It's a very difficult kind of situation to be in, because when you've got a absolute 100% deadline, then you will, obviously do everything you can to make it happen. The issue I have at the moment is I'm about 10 kilos over stage weight, and it's just getting to where I've kind of got to go into 7th gear to get into the stage contest condition. And this is kind of where the real hurt comes in, as far as like how you feel every day, and I guess walking around pretty much shredded. It will be a big task to do, and to want to do that if there's no show.
Yeah.
So if they all get cancelled, that's the issue. But I think I'm just gonna go in like it's going on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll regret it if I just pull out. So.
Yeah. And again, I suppose everybody's in the same position, aren't they? It'd be interesting to see if some of the shows do go ahead, especially like the Olympias and stuff. Obviously,
them
guys
pushed back to December now. So,
guys are all going to have access to a gym, aren't they? Whoever owns a gym are going to let them guys in. So you wouldn't think it would have a massive impact. Maybe getting the food in and whatever. So it'd be interesting to see what effect the lockdown does have on the competitions. Are people going to be worse? Are they going to be better because they've sort of maintained the level for longer? You just don't know.
I've got clients who are literally just training with bands, and 2 of them are on competition prep and look fantastic. Like, I can't believe how good they look just using bands. I'm like, this is like an award in itself. So as you said, hopefully they'll be able to go back to the gym and have maybe make a bit of progress again as well.
Yeah, perfect. Right, thanks very much for your time, Rob. I'll send you my photos tomorrow.
Cool.
Spot on. Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers now.
Cheers, buddy.